Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name's Rachel and I am knitting. Not right now, but most of the time. And I have been knitting a lot over the course of the last week. The day that I plan to upload this video is Saturday, August 12th. I'm filming this right now on Friday, August 11th. So it's a great time for me to stop knitting for a few minutes and give you an update and kind of make a log of my progress for my future self to look back on and see what I've been up to this week. So throughout the course of this week, I have pretty much exclusively been knitting with Treehouse Knits yarn. Lauren, as you may know, sent me a ton of yarn and I have had the absolute pleasure of my life working through this yarn so far. I'm enjoying every second of it. So yes, I've pretty much exclusively been knitting with Treehouse yarns this week. The exception to that is the little bit every day I'm working on my Florencia knit along with my Knitting for Olive cotton merino yarn in soft blue. I have my first sleeve done and on hold, and then my second sleeve is in progress. So I am chipping away at that. But for this video, I want to focus on my Treehouse Knits project. So I'll undoubtedly tell you more about my Florencia in videos to come. But for today, I want to focus on Treehouse Knits because this weekend, Sunday, August 13th at 6 p.m. Central Time, Lauren's favorite collection pre-order becomes available for you to shop. And if you're anything like me, you have totally researched an entire collection before it even goes live, to the max, because you are so ready to get the skeins that are really speaking to you. You might even have some project ideas, but be kind of on the fence between a few options. So I thought it might be helpful for me to again show you the yarn and show you the projects I'm making so you can see how the yarn is working up. So the first project I will update you on is my sheep camp, and there have been no updates since my last video on my project progress. So let me grab this out of my project bag. I'll even put it on for you. It's like 4,000 degrees today, but I'm still gonna put this on for you so you can see how it works up. All right, it's not fully pulled. There we go. In the back, it was caught on something. My bra clasp or something. Anyway, okay, so here is my sheep camp. I am knitting this in size F, and I am using two colors from the Favorites collection. The main color is Smokeshow. I don't have any more skeins to show you what it looks like skeined up in real time, so I'll put an older clip here so you can see what it looks like in skein form. Lauren sent me 4 skeins of Smokeshow because the pattern for sizes B through H, so every size except the smallest size and the largest size, calls for 4 skeins of main color. I have run out of the main color before I could finish the recommended length. So I'm skeptical of the 4 skein recommendation. If you're thinking of making a sheep camp, then I recommend getting 5 skeins of main color just to be safe, particularly if you're plus size and you're making one of the larger sizes. So yes, the main color is Smokeshow and the contrast color is First Flurries. I have a good amount of First Flurries left. I'm not sure what I'll use it for. But this is a great knit, I think. I can't wait to finish it. Lauren is sending me the yarn I need to finish. So that is something I'm really grateful for. This base that I knit it on is the non-superwash DK. And if you're not familiar with superwash versus non-superwash, I'm no expert, but from what I understand, superwash yarn is treated so that it becomes machine washable and dryable. I still don't really machine wash or dry my garments when they're superwash, but non-superwash wool is not treated. So it has more, I don't know, closer to its natural properties. So it will felt if you add heat to it or you agitate it. So you want to be careful with your care of non-superwash. But a benefit of non-superwash is that you can spit splice, which means you can join your ends together as you are knitting instead of having ends to weave in later. So if you look here, the only ends that I have are where I join new yarn or when a skein ended. So when I was done with my color work, I have this end that's, you know, I'll weave that in at the end. And I have this end where I first joined the contrast color. But other than that, and you know, where I joined new yarn for the sleeves, other than that, whenever I needed to join a new skein, I was able to do that during the process of knitting with a spit splice to make a seamless join. So that really reduces the amount of ends that you may need to weave in at the end of your project. So if you are really not a fan of weaving in ends, think about trying non-superwash yarn. You might be surprised, you might really love it. I also will say, I've mentioned this in previous videos, the non-superwash yarn that Lauren carries at Treehouse Knits is incredibly soft. Typically, in my experience, a non-superwash yarn is easily distinguishable from a superwash yarn just because it's not quite as soft, or it has a different texture almost. It's still great to work with, still really nice, but there's a grittier texture to it. With Lauren's non-superwash base, that grittiness is indecipherable. I cannot tell the difference between how this non-superwash feels compared to superwash. And in fact, I was thinking about this and I was trying to figure out, like, what is that? I was trying to put my finger on it. And what this yarn feels like to me is that it feels like a cashmere blend yarn. So yes, I'm a total fan of this non-superwash yarn. I plan to use it in many future projects throughout my life to come. And yeah, it just feels super luxurious. It feels like cashmere. Honestly, it does to me and to my fingers. So I'm very, very happy with that and looking forward to working with this base again. Okay, so that's an update on my sheep camp sweater. If you watched last week's project progress update video, you may remember my field day cardigan. So I'll give you an update on that next. Last week, when I checked in with you about my sweater progress, I was still working on the upper back panel of my field day. And I'm happy to report that since that update, I have made a lot more progress on my field day. It's kind of, it has a lot of moving pieces here because there are different sections that are on hold on my needles. But right now, the upper back panel is done. And then what you do is you pick up your stitches on the upper right edge of that back panel, and then you knit the front right panel, and that is done, complete with V-neck increases, which I marked here so I could easily count them. And then that was put on hold because I finished it is why. And so now the next step is for me to do the same on the left side to make the left front panel. So here's my face again. Hi, sorry, did you miss me? Okay, so that is some really, really good progress on my field day. Something that I also mentioned in last week's progress update video is that I started alternating skeins. This is something that is recommended when you're working with hand-dyed yarn. It is certainly not required. It is totally up to your preference if you choose to do it or not. I am not a fan of color pooling So typically I still don't alternate skeins, but I just get mad at myself for not doing it. But I did notice on the back panel of the field day, you can see the line where, or at least I can see, can you see it? You can see the line where I joined the second skein. Like I said in last week's video, the first skein had less pink in it than the second skein, or at least like the distribution was just a tiny bit different. And that happens, that's totally normal with hand-dyed yarn. So what I wish I had done is when I was joining in a new skein, alternating a few rows, so this pink would not have been so, I don't know, eye-catching. You can kind of tell, or at least I can tell, I don't know if that's because it's obvious and everyone can see it, or I'm just so close to this project that I am being nitpicky and seeing things that are not as obvious as I think they are. But anyway, there's this flash of a few rows that is a bit more pink. And then when I realized that was happening, I began alternating skeins. So it's a bit more, you know, evenly distributed, and I think it looks really good. But this flash of pink is kind of bothering me. So I am going to wait to see if I'm going to frog, because with how this sweater is constructed, if I needed to frog past this point, I would be in trouble because I need all this space for where I picked up my front panel stitches. But the flash of pink is not as high up as where those stitches are picked up. So I would be safe to frog up to here and redo this part of the back. I have to decide if I care enough to do that. I think it still looks really beautiful, even with that flash of pink. And in fact, I have kind of learned with other garments I've made, if I hit a few rows where there's a splotch of a certain color, or it looks like it's color pooling as I'm knitting it, once I finish the garment, sometimes I don't even know where that spot is anymore because it has blended into the garment as a whole. So that may well happen with the field day cardigan. I'm not sure yet, but basically I don't need to make a decision right now, and I can decide later. So that's what I'm gonna do. You know what I think. Future Rachel is faster, stronger, smarter, wiser, so I'm gonna leave that for her to deliberate on. But in the meantime, I am very proud of my progress on the field day, and I plan to take this with me when I travel to Oregon this next week. So very excited about that. On this part of my front panel, you can see how I've carried the vertical floats with alternating skeins. I've been asked to make a video showing how I do that, and that is on my list. But be patient with me because I'll be traveling, but it'll get done, don't worry. So that's the progress on my field day cardigan in the Rory colorway. And this is on the Dove DK base, which is 100% superwash merino wool, 246 yards per skein. And you can shop this colorway and this base during the Favorites Collection pre-order on Sunday. Okay, so that's the update on the field day cardigan in my Rory colorway. Now I'm going to give you an update on my KAL cardigan in the stories that really mattered. So the stories that really mattered is this really beautiful kind of dark, moody, jewel tone symphony of color. It is absolutely stunning. It has blues, greens, browns, purples. It's incredible. So I'm holding one strand of Dove DK with one strand of Suri Ash lace to make a worsted weight cardigan. I'm making the Kal cardigan by Claire Jackson of Perfectly Knotted, and I haven't started that yet, but I have made progress since last week's video. So if you remember last week's video, I showed you my 2 swatches that I made. Neither of them met gauge, and normally when this happens, I do knitting math to determine what size to make, but I don't know, I wanted to meet gauge, so I swatched again, and this is my 3rd swatch. I still have to measure it to determine if I met gauge. Let's just do it now. Okay, so I have my little clear ruler that I use with my sock machine when I can find it. It's see-through, so if I set it down, it disappears. But okay, so let me pull up the gauge listed in the pattern. Actually, I don't want to look at the gauge yet because I know myself and I know that I am easily influenced. So if I look at this gauge and I know what it is, like let's say it's, I don't remember what it is. Let's say it's 22 inches over, okay. Let's say it's 22 stitches over 4 inches. If I'm measuring gauge and I have like 20 inches over 4 inches, I will trick myself to say, oh, this is probably actually 22. Like if I move the ruler a little bit this way and I stretch the swatch a little bit that way, I get 22 inches, so that's right. But that's not an accurate measurement, so I am just going to measure the gauge now without knowing what the pattern calls for. That way I know that I am honest with myself and not trying to sell myself a lie. So I'm going to show you how I measure my gauge, but before I pivot the camera and show you my desk, you have to promise not to judge me. Promise? Okay, I'll show you now. Okay, so this is my swatch. I am going to first start by putting my ruler down on my swatch, and I'm going to find a row towards the middle of the swatch, and I'm just going to line up my ruler to make sure that it is not crossing a row, because if it's slanted and it's measuring over more than one row, that's not going to give me an accurate measurement. So I'm going to make sure that I'm just on one row. Okay, so making sure that I'm not crossing rows, I'm going to start with the notch, the 0-inch notch at the very beginning of a V. And if I had a blocking mat, that would make it a little easier, but I'm just gonna stuff that in there. That is a T-pin holding my spot. And then I'm going to go, making sure that it's still on the same row, and go to 4 inches and put the pin where the 4-inch mark is. And now I can remove my ruler, and I'm gonna grab another T-pin and count how many stitches are between them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 17 and a half. Okay, so I have 17 and a half inches for my width. So I'm going to start this label. This is the stories that really mattered. And this is Dove DK and Suri Ash Lace. And I knit this gauge swatch on size 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, size 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I knit this on size 6, and I'm telling that by the purl bumps. So let me show you. I know that I knit this on size 6 because there are 6 purl bumps that I left for myself. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They are kind of tricky to see, but they're there. So I've made sure to add that this was knit on size 6. And now on the other side of my swatch, I'm going to write the measurements. So I had 17.5 stitches equals 4 inches. And then I do some math for myself to determine what the number of stitches is over 1 inch. And yes, I typed that into my computer because I don't know 17.5 divided by 4 off the top of my head. All right, so we have the stitch gauge, and now I want the row gauge. So I am going to do the same thing I did before, using my ruler, laying it flat. I'm not stretching my swatch to be what I want it to be. I'm measuring it for what it actually is. So we have, see, this swatch isn't even 4 inches. So let's just see what we have. Let's do over 3 inches. So I'm putting my pin at the base of this stitch, and I know it's such dark yarn, so it's kind of hard to see, but I put my needle at the base of this stitch, and I am making sure that I'm measuring the same row. I'm not crossing rows, and I'll put my other needle at the top of the stitch at the 3-inch mark, and now I'm just gonna count what I have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 19, 20, 21. All right, so I have 21 stitches over, or excuse me, 21 rows over 3 inches. And then that means I have 7 rows over 1 inch. And I also want to say that this was wet blocked. So that way, when I look back at this swatch, I don't have to pull out my T-pins and my ruler whenever I need to determine what this gauge was or remember what this gauge was. I measured it, and now I can simply pin this tag to my swatch. And now I have all that information. I know the bases that this swatch is made up of. I know the colorway. I know the size I knitted on. I know the month and the year I knitted on in case my gauge evolves. And then I have my gauge written out and the blocking method that I used. Okay, we're back and better than ever. We have our swatch measured. So let's look at the pattern now to see how close I was. So, okay, so the Kal cardigan, I still didn't meet gauge. It's 18 stitches over 4 inches, and I got 17.5. So that's close. Like, honestly, I'm fine with that stitch gauge. It's not perfect, so I would definitely do knitting math to make sure that I was making a size that would fit me. If you're even half a stitch off, you don't want to just move forward with the size you want to make and assume it will be the same measurements listed in the pattern, because it won't be. So, but it's close enough for me to be comfortable doing some knitting math. The row gauge, though, is 23 rows over 4 inches, and I have 21 rows over 3 inches. So in the pattern, that maths out to calling for 5 3/4 rows per inch, and I have 7 rows per inch. So what that means is my rows are smaller than what the pattern calls for. So, this could still work, but I don't know. I think I need to listen to my heart. I don't know if I want to move forward with this. Yeah, I'm just gonna need to poke around my brain and decide what I want to do. So I may even swatch again, we'll see. But that is the update on my Kal cardigan. I'm having trouble finding my groove with gauge, so we're gonna put that in, you know, time out for a minute while I reassess what I want to do. But I still did make progress. I made another swatch and I blocked it and I measured it, so progress there. Now let me tell you about the last pattern or project that I've been working on. Let me grab that yarn. Okay, so last but not least is my project with In Bloom. This is a beautiful purpley pink with some cream. It's so pretty. This is on Redwood worsted, and if you remember in my last update video, I have swatched for the Lovable sweater, which is a beautiful lace raglan, but the swatch was just all wrong, and I realized that this pattern actually calls for Aran weight yarn, and I had Lauren send me worsted weight yarn because apparently in my mind they're interchangeable when in reality they are not. So I had the choice of pivoting or doing knitting math to make the worsted weight yarn work for the Lovable sweater. And ultimately what I decided to do was save the Lovable sweater to knit when I have yarn that it calls for, so it's a good fit, and pivot into making a different pattern. So I scoured Ravelry and I settled on the Kal cardigan, and this is a beautiful open eyelet cardigan. You can make it short sleeved or long sleeved. There's also the option to make it v-necked or crew neck. So I think I'm going to do a short sleeve v-neck of In Bloom. Now when I was swatching, everything below this lower light bulb marker is wrong. Like I did the lace pattern wrong, but everything above it is the correct lace pattern, so you can kind of see the difference in I mean, one part is right and one part is wrong. So there you go. I'm really happy with this swatch. I haven't measured it yet, but I don't think I met gauge. And I'm not going to measure it right now either because my heart can't take it. So that is going to be on my to-do list. And once I measure gauge, I will then figure out if I want to re-swatch or do some knitting math. So you probably could finish that sentence with me. You know the drill by now. But I do really love the drape of this fabric that this swatch made. And I think, you know, this colorway looks just stunning with this stitch pattern. So I really think it's a good fit. And I'm really glad that I pivoted from the Lovable sweater to the Kal cardigan. I think it will be, prove to be a really good choice. So I still plan to make the Lovable sweater one day, but not with this yarn. That will be a treat to look forward to in my future knitting life. But yes, that is the update. That's a week worth of progress. I think that's pretty great progress. There was a time in my life when I would not be happy with this progress. I would think I should have finished my field day cardigan by now. And no, sorry. I went really, really diligently to work on these projects and I enjoyed every second of it. So I don't think that's any time lost. These are like instilled with the power of Captain Catherine Janeway because I watched Voyager this week while I was working on these. So that's good. Does anyone else feel like your knits kind of absorb the energy around you when you're making them? I don't know. Don't think I'm a weirdo. I just think like, I don't know, these are like our knits are like talismans or whatever. Like they signify times in our lives, good, bad, or ugly, from when, you know, either when you bought the yarn or when you made the garment, or I don't know, where you were when you were knitting, whatever. All of those things are true. What else was I going to tell you? I don't know. So I guess that's it. That's my progress. I have the sheep camp nearly done, but on hold until I get more yarn. I have the field day in a great spot, keeping on with that progress. I am going to listen to my heart a little bit before I decide what to do with my KAL cardigan, and I have pivoted to the Corin cardigan with my In Bloom yarn. So what do you think? Is that good progress for a week worth of knitting? Am I slacking? Am I a maniac bulldozing through these? Am I a little of the two? Who knows? You can tell me, but be nice to me. Okay, so that's it. That's the update. What else do I say? Oh yeah, if you like this video, you can give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And if you want to be notified of my next upload, you can hit that notification bell. In the meantime, head over to Instagram and follow me at Rachel is Knitting if you don't already. And I can't wait to see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.